The Sikh Empire, forgotten by history except in the hearts of the Punjabi community. Ranjit Singh, the Lion of Punjab, famously had one eye which oversaw the fertile Indus River Valley of modern-day Pakistan. In reality, Ranjit Singh proved himself fighting Afghan invaders into the Indus Valley and didn't do much in the Victorian century. He died in 1839. After much internal strife over succession, with Ranjit Singh's children and wife being assassinated or dying to various diseases, the final Sikh emperor, Dalip Singh, would be deposed by the British after the disastrous Anglo-Sikh War in 1849. That would mark the end of the Sikh Empire and Maharaja Ranjit Singh's noble line. If you're playing Victoria 3 though, you don't have to face the same fate. The Afghans have been repelled, but it's time to turn the Khalsa army's attention both east and west, towards a true Indian empire, a Sikh Chakravarti. In today's GigaChad guide, we'll be going over an effective and mostly consistent strategy to become India in just 30 years in Victoria 3. This run will use some probably unintended consequences of the British Empire's insistence of keeping its chartered company safe, and an unintended consequence of the recent 1.06 patch. I had an old strategy which is now outdated, which I used to speedrun the Empire under the pun achievement. I won't make a guide for that strategy since it's no longer viable, but feel free to watch the run in the description. This guide can act as a way to get Empire under the pun too, since it will effectively do that alongside forming India. Let's jump into the Sikh Empire and its starting conditions. The Sikh Empire starts off with a couple key weaknesses and one key strength. Those weaknesses are a feudal society, a failing economy, and enemies all around. The strength, however, in the face of that, is a large, modernized army. 70 battalions of line infantry, along with the arms industries to match. This army will collapse under the weight of its own expenses though, so we have to fix this economy. That starts with two things: abolishing serfdom and getting a coastline. In order to do that, start researching academia and the subsequent romanticism. This is so we can switch to agrarianism later on. Also, declare a war on Sindh, who has a port. This war is the most important part of the run in terms of securing the future of our empire. In 90% of cases, the East India Company will join this war. That sounds scary, but in reality, it's exactly what we want. The EIC is a much weaker opponent than it might first appear, and using this opportunity, we can attack them without Britain intervening, who certainly is not a weaker opponent. The EIC looks like it has a huge army, but for whatever reason, the AI never seems to want to use it all. I don't completely understand what's going on here, but basically, the EIC will only send a small portion of its army to the front line. With that knowledge in mind, go ahead and add Delhi, Punjab, and war reparations to the war goals. Delhi will immensely help us with its iron and paper mills, so grabbing it now is great for us. Before starting the war, when it comes to building queue, I like to add a couple construction sites, a couple government bureaucracies, and most importantly, this is the key one, tool workshops. I recommend putting them in Pashtunistan, just to spread the infrastructure usage around. We want to save infrastructure in Punjab for agrarian stuff due to its bonus, and in Kashmir for its coal. So let's prep for the war. Mobilize all three generals and place Ranjit Singh on the EIC border and the other two in Sindh. We're gonna take out Sindh quickly and then wrap around to fight the EIC. When the war is about to start, put army wages to the max and then start implementing local police. This puts the armed forces to loyal, giving us extra offense and defense. By doing this, we're pretty much guaranteed to win all of our battles, although I'll be honest, sometimes the EIC takes months and months to get through, other times you get through on the first fight. I got lucky in this run and broke through almost immediately, but you might have less luck. Regardless, you will eventually break through. I would explain how the fighting works and how else to influence it, but to be honest, I don't know why sometimes I get through easily and oftentimes I don't. All I know is the infrastructure determines how many battalions can fight at once. So sometimes fights happen in Punjab and other times in Delhi. They both have about the same infrastructure. The smaller the battle, the better for you because our troops are superior to the EICs. As you go, cancel and restart the police law so that it never accidentally passes. We don't actually want police yet, but we still want the buff, so just hit the X and redo it just before a chance to pass goes through. Not much more to say about this war. You hope to get lucky and then you eventually win. Once you win the war, this is our new starting position. We have a port and a 5-year truce with our largest enemy. We will have to use those 5 years to get ready for another war against them, which we'll plan out now. When we're at peace, we have two things to accomplish: balance the budget and change our economic system. We want to get rid of serfdom and get into agrarianism. First off, for the budget, we're going to slightly shrink the army. Delete all barracks in every state that isn't Punjab. This alone almost completely fixes our economy, and it also ties nicely into our tactical civil war upcoming. Go ahead and abolish serfdom. This will make the landlords radical. They're going to rise up in the north of the country, but guess what? We destroyed their barracks, so they have no army except conscripts. The landlords are going to be so weak that if you're lucky, they won't even put up a fight. When they rebel and then lose, their clout drops to 0, letting you pass your law with ease. Well, I say ease, but the chance is still like 38%, so hopefully you get a little lucky. The faster we get this done, the better the run. While this is all happening, it's important to get ports going in Sind immediately. Once they've built, import some clippers and change the port to the next level port that uses clippers. Yes, we're going to import ships so that we can use those ships to import more ships that can import more stuff.
It just works.
From here, we're going to make a tariff economy. Look at your market for anything cheap and begin exporting it in large volumes to whoever will take it. We can also import stuff that we're missing, like wood and hardwood or iron or whatever you need. We get tariffs no matter what happens, so just start balancing your market with goods as you see fit. Keep building bureaucracy as you go so you can trade more, and try spamming out silk or coffee or sugar or tobacco or whatever cash crop you think can get you a good price. I also recommend spamming out grain and then importing even more so that you can get huge tariffs on it. That's your loop for the interwar period. Trade, bureaucracy, and laws. Don't worry about anything else. Once you switch over to agrarianism, your economy will really jump up heavily, and you can use your investment pool for making those tradable cash crops. For research, head down the railroad rabbit hole by grabbing lathes, atmospheric engine, and mechanical tools. You're going to want to preemptively build steel mills and use the steel for your tools in Pashtunistan. Those tools will be super good very soon as we get our coal mines and iron mines going. For now, if you need more iron than what Delhi is already providing, import and collect those juicy tariffs. The next law change you want after agrarianism is per capita taxation. With our massive population, per capita taxation will make us loads of money and send the economy into an even better place because the rich get more taxed and the poor get a little bit less tax. Okay, so all of that should be your interwar truce period activity. Your economy and budget will be kept healthy by those EIC war reparations, so nothing to worry about there. They will eventually run out, but for now you're safe. Once you're within about 6 months of the truce going up, consider grabbing some barracks in Punjab so we can get a little more army before going to war with the EIC again. This next war is going to be big for our nation. At this point, it's time to put on your big boy boots and go to war with Britain. We're going to war on our terms though. It should be around 1842 depending on how your game and first war went. It could be later, but it doesn't really matter that much. We're going to declare war on one of the princely states in Rajasthan. This is because when we do this, it forces the EIC to take over the war, and thus they can't call in the other princely states. This keeps us to 3 fronts. The only way we lose to the EIC is when they have 1,000 fronts on us, which if you allow them to declare on you, or you attack them directly, will happen. In almost 100% of cases in the current patch, Britain will jump in to save the EIC. In many test runs, I have not seen it not happen yet. In the previous patch, Britain often wouldn't. Again, for that now outdated strategy, check out the speedrun on my channel. With Britain in the war, add some war goals. First, we want recognition and war reparations. Second, we add war reparations to the EIC. That's all we want. Just because we have too much infamy to really take more, and we also want to be able to win this war without too much effort. But let's step back for a second. How the hell are we going to defeat Britain, you may be asking? The answer is quite simple. The Achilles heel of Britain, you see, is Gambia. In order to force recognition and war reparations, all we need is to occupy a piece of any territory in the British Empire. There's one spot in Britain that has exactly 0 barracks and 0 conscripts, Gambia. There may be other spots, but it's the spot I find to work the best, so we'll go with it. We currently have no ships though, so we need to amend that real quick. We don't need to take down the British fleet, don't worry. We just need exactly 2 ships, one to distract the entire British fleet, and the other to land sneakily into Gambia. That comes later though. For now, let's focus on the land war in India. When I started this war, I actually went and made a backup save because I had only tested this part in theory, never in practice, but I'd never had to use the backup save. This war did work out on my first try, and having done it now, it should pretty much always work out. I'm sharing the backup save just because trying to be transparent, you know. In my case, the easiest princely state to attack was Jaisalmer. This may differ in your game, but basically check for a princely state that you have a border with that has the lowest troop count. We're going to put 1 general on Jaisalmer, and then everyone else in defense mode on whatever borders we have with the EIC. In my case, there are 2 fronts, so I put 1 general on the smaller front in attack mode, and the rest of my generals on the Delhi front in defense mode. We want to shrink the number of fronts to 1 as soon as possible. While all this is happening, start building 2 naval bases in Sind. We have no man of wars, but you can import a couple from whoever has them once the bases are built. While we wait for those naval bases to get built, try to keep the army loyal for that buff to offense and defense, and see how the war is going. If all is going well, you'll occupy Jaisalmer and whatever smaller fronts with the EIC you have, allowing you to just defend against them in Delhi. In my case, I got a little greedy and pushed in Awadh a little bit, but during the run I realized it was a waste, so I instead chose to defend later. While you're defending, you may lose a little tiny bit of ground here and there. This is entirely okay. We have so many dudes stacked up on this front that they can barely capture any land, so they'll take absolutely forever to grab anything while our naval bases are getting built. Once the bases are done, recruit 2 admirals such that each one gets 1 flotilla. After that, recruit 2 generals, unless you already have extras, who will take just a couple battalions for themselves. Feel free to promote your actually good generals that are defending Delhi and keep your small generals unpromoted. Send out a naval invasion to Gambia, and then wait 1 day and send a second one to Gambia. What may happen is both land in Gambia and face no resistance. That's the optimal outcome. The other outcome is that one fleet gets intercepted by the British, who may have been patrolling there for some reason, and the other one skirts past it and lands without resistance. Both outcomes work, but one results in you losing a ship, basically. Once you're in Gambia, the British won't be able to get troops there fast enough before you completely occupy all of it, and now the enemy war support will start draining fast. Just defend in Delhi and wait until you win. You might be wondering why Britain isn't naval invading in Sindh, for example, or taking Gambia back, and this is because the AI sees a land border via Delhi, and the AI will, in my testing, always prefer to fight on land rather than to naval invade. Even if they do naval invade in Sindh, it's okay. Just hold them off for a while their war support drains from you having Gambia. Once you win, you'll now be a recognized power with war reps from 2 of the biggest economies in the game. Congratulations. The economy is solved for the next 5 years, putting us into yet another interwar truce period, except our power only grows while Britain's only wanes. From here, we're recognized now, meaning we can conquer all the nearby unrecognized powers without worrying about infamy, so that's what we're going to do. The wars against Makran, Afghanistan, Galat, and Oman are pretty simple, so I won't go over them. If Russia joins the wars, which they might, you likely don't have to worry because they won't actually send any troops. Most of the time, when a great power joins a small war like this, they don't actually mobilize because they expect you to back down. If you don't back down, they may begin conscripting, but by the time they do, you'll have already won the war. We're conquering Afghanistan especially for the iron and coal, but Balochistan is huge for those extra ports. We're gonna want to get more convoys, so having more coastline is very important. Beyond those conquests, it's sort of up to you if you want more. I sometimes like to grab Zulu, Transvaal, and Oranje, since the Boer states have lots of coal, gold, and iron, but you don't have to since we have Afghanistan. You may want to conquer Borneo for their gold and sulfur, but you've got Sindh for sulfur, and so on. I chose to keep myself pretty isolated to India and the Middle East in this case. The big thing production-wise here is to get railroads up and running. We're gonna run out of infrastructure soon, so using the coal and iron from our new conquest, feel free to start spamming out steel mills, motor industries, and railways across your states. You can pretty immensely increase your economic output by getting fertilizer for all your crops too. Right now, we make lots of cash from exports and imports, so consider making more and more cash crops and grain, which we can send out to the world using our new conquest from Balochistan. You'll also want to start building up more and more bureaucracy across Delhi and Punjab for the beautiful tax capacity there. With a population this huge, every bit of tax capacity is meaningful for us. Either way, once you've run out your truces, it's time to once again attack one of the EIC's princely states. We're not going to take much since we're not really ready for a proper naval invasion yet, but for now, grab just war operations so we keep the economy chugging along off the back of British money. Declare war on the weakest princely state on your border, in my case Jodhpur, and the EIC will join, followed by Britain as usual. Grab war operations from both the EIC and Britain itself, and then we'll do the exact same strategy from the previous war. I won't go over it again since it's quite simple. Occupy Gambia, hold the line, and wait. I would say more about it, but because war is more or less sidelined in Vic 3, there's not really much to say. In the event that you lose some battles in Delhi, they should only occupy a little piece of you at a time due to the number of defending troops they have on the border. These occupations don't really mean much since their war exhaustion will be ticking down much faster due to you having all your war goals. The only way this can get scary is if they have a war goal to take Delhi, and it's also their only war goal. In theory, they can drain your support faster than theirs drains if they have all their war goals and you've taken a lot of casualties. I've never seen this happen before, since Britain will almost always add in a little liberate Sindh or a treaty port in Balochistan, etc. You have nothing to fear but fear itself. This is going to be the last soft war against Britain. The next one we're going to hit pretty hard. Now that we're once again safe from British invasion, we're going to shift from an agrarian economy to a manufacturing one. We should have quite a set of mines and resources, as well as available trade routes due to our bureaucracy. It's time to go laissez-faire and send the Sikh Empire to the moon. It's pretty unlikely that you'll actually get laissez-faire to pass during this 5-year truce period, but we can begin the work towards it now. You'll almost certainly get a revolution when we try to pass this law, but don't forget that all of our barracks are in Punjab, your capital state can't rebel against you, so any revolution that comes will have no army to back it up. Put down whatever revolution comes and continue building up your industry. We're going to want to transition to skirmish infantry soon, which are soldiers that use ammunition. In order to make ammunition, we need explosives and lead. Lead we can get from Rajasthan and Baluchistan, while explosives we can get from chemical plants. Begin working on getting both of those things while shifting the law, and aside from that, just build factories as market demands change. I was building lots of textiles and furniture since my people wanted that, as well as the chemical plants and lead mines. You'll need arms industries too in order to supply your troops, so let me summarize what your tasks are for this interwar period, then we'll get to the third war with Britain and our first conquests against their island. You need small arms industries, lead mines, chemical plants, munitions factories, and railways for the infrastructure to support it. You should already have steel mills and motor industries for those railways, and alongside that, build things that keep your citizens happy so you get more loyalists to make passing laws easier and to stop untimely revolutions from popping up. In my case, I wasn't able to pass laissez-faire before the truce ended, so I didn't get a head start, but if you're lucky, you can get laissez-faire and build those factories on the cheap with that investment pool. Let's fight Britain now with some heavier war goals this time. Once again, we shall attack our princely state, in this case Jaipur, then add the classic war goals, war operations of EIC and Britain, and I also added the last bit of Rajputana that the EIC had just for border war purposes. This is a pretty small war, and it could have been more, but I was feeling a bit wary of how this would go, so I played it safe. Allow me to explain why. We're going to attempt a naval invasion of Britain by taking advantage of the AI's overly zealous placement of troops in India. You may have noticed that Britain places a whole hell of a lot of troops on the border in India. This begs the question, who's protecting their home? To answer such a question is no one, at least in theory. This is why I was being careful, because I didn't actually test this before doing the run, and I didn't make a backup save, so I was feeling pretty scared. Honestly, I should have just made a backup, but whatever. Go ahead and send 2 naval invasions, one to distract a potentially patrolling navy, the other to actually land. We only have 1 boat for each army, but there will be almost no defenders in Britain, and we have a way to get rid of the insufficient support modifier from lacking ships. The moment the army begins fighting, switch your boats off to patrolling on the coastline, could be any of them, doesn't matter, and suddenly, your troops no longer have insufficient support. Turns out, if 1 ship isn't enough, then no ships is actually better. Either way, you'll land in Britain, and there's literally no one here. It's completely empty, hopefully. Your troops will end up on the front, but sometimes during naval invasions they don't actually get on the front, which is really annoying, but we here in India have mastered the power of teleportation, so just move the troops over. You can do this by assigning an army to first defend a front, then on the same day assign them to attack the same front. They will instantly appear in Britain, and from there Britain, who has not unlocked the power to teleport yet, will get completely occupied, and you will win the war in short time. Had I been more courageous, I would have taken more in this war, but armed with my new confidence, the next war will be the one where Britain truly bends the knee. Once you win the war, you'll hopefully have some very clean borders like I do here. God, that looks beautiful. From here, there's one more truce before we really cripple Britain. Let's talk about the game plan for this truce period. So I'll be honest here. I've explained the whole interwar period thing a couple times now. There's not really much new to it. Keep developing industries, keep exporting stuff, keep researching whatever stuff you want. From here, the game is pretty simple. You can more or less do as you wish, depending on your own personal goals. For me, it's pretty much always about shooting that GDP as high as possible, so I like to spam out a lot of factories and railroads for them. That's what I'm doing, but you can do as you see fit. As long as you keep getting war operations from Britain, your budget will always be strong, even while building. You can expand your army if you want, you can get new military technology and try to defeat Britain even harder, but at this point, you win. The AI will overcommit their troops in India, leaving England wide open, so you just invade England, then hold it long enough to win. As long as you can defend the border at Delhi, which you should always be able to, you'll win every war. With that in mind, I'm going to skip to the next war. What you do in this crucial period is relatively meaningless for this guide. Alright, so with this war, we're going to take another princely state, and the home counties, which is London. The war is relatively simple. Spend some time on the meat grinder in Delhi, and make sure to occupy the princely state, in my case, Baroda. Once Britain has sufficiently overcommitted to the Delhi front, send in your double naval invasion and make the boats go away when the battle starts. This will land you in London. In my case, Britain actually did keep some soldiers around, but remember that so long as you have even a piece of the home county state, you occupy their capital, meaning you hold all war goals by default. If there's an army there, just stack on your army to the front in defense mode and wait until you win. It'll take longer than if you could occupy all of England, but you'll win, rest assured. With this win, you'll have London, and hopefully you'll also be a great power. If you're a great power, we can finally do the last thing we have to do to become India. I'm skipping over the 5-year truce period once again so that we can get India. Here's what we're going to do. Do not attack our princely state this time. Just attack Britain directly for the Midlands. This may drag in more great powers, like America in my case, but they're unimportant. Don't add any new war goals until the last day before the countdown to war. This is because we're going to be becoming a pariah real fast with the war goals that we're adding. Namely, we'll be transferring the EIC to us for over 100 infamy. If you've upgraded to skirmish infantry by now, then Britain will fall not with ease, but with an effort. This won't be as easy as just sneakily invading London, but by this point your army should be pretty big, and be of high enough quality to win, especially if you don't have to hold fronts against the EIC. As well, I actually lied, we can sneakily invade on Britain's lines. You can send invasions to Lancashire and Yorkshire to split up Britain's attention. As long as you hold Britain's capital state, which should be the Midlands right now, you will win eventually. In terms of other great powers getting involved, they likely won't do much. Most AI great powers don't want to mobilize for someone else's war. They usually join in with the hopes that you'll back down. America is in this war, and they may send a couple battalions over, but they won't do much. Same goes for Spain. They may have added some war goals to you, but you can ignore them. Once you've got the EIC, just click that nation formation button and become scuffed India. You don't integrate the EIC or its princely states when you do this, so you'll be a weirdly fractured yet also unified India, but India nonetheless. I got this done by 1870, but with more aggressive plays you can do this even earlier. Nonetheless, 1870 is pretty good for uniting such a huge peninsula. Unfortunately, making a nation in Victoria 3 doesn't really do a whole lot. We've gained a bunch of accepted cultures, but that's literally it. The map color is acceptable, I suppose. I'm not sure if I'd have preferred the white color of Hindustan from EU4 or a deeper orange, since that's one of India's national colors. The yellow just feels kind of unfitting. It's not really a color of India. Whatever. Point is, you're a GigaChad, you got India, you're also a pariah, although you can eventually burn off the infamy with enough time, so maybe just chill, let it cool off before doing more wars, or you can lean into it and start conquering everyone everywhere all at once. It's completely up to you. So that's the Sikh Empire in Victoria 3, from nascent power to the vanquisher of Britain. A unified India under the unexpected third option, Sikhism. You could play a religiously tolerant Indian empire, or you could play Modi with a turban, up to you. On the next GigaChad guide, we'll be integrating our puppets and trying to make India the most prosperous place on earth. Stay tuned for that. Check me out on Twitch, and you can have a look at my Patreon if you're interested in seeing me chronicle my language learning experiences. A big part of my community and my stream is learning languages. I'm currently studying German over on Patreon, and I post weekly updates on what I'm learning and how. For now, everything is locked behind the first patron tier, but 3 months after I start learning a language, I release all the entries for free, so just wait until mid-December if you want to read them for free. Also, for the community here, I'll release more videos soon. I was going hard on Victoria 3 speedrunning on my stream recently, so I didn't have a whole lot of time for YouTube, sorry for that. I'll do more Victoria 3 stuff, then maybe more CK3 stuff, but to be honest with you, CK3 has gotten bland without any new updates, so I may wait until something interesting comes up for that game to make more videos. I'm also working on a video essay critique for Victoria 3 that'll hopefully release in the near future. That's all from me. Thanks for watching.